Hello classes, I'm not sure if all of you get to see this or if this just be calculus, but here's a good review on, we're going to do a review of dividing polynomials, okay? And then I'll also put that into synthetic division and how those two intertwine and see if I can get those two done fairly quickly here. So first of all, dividing polynomials, we need to get some terminology out of the way if we're going to do this. What we have on top here is what we call the dividend. The bottom of the fraction is called the divisor. Okay, instead of the numerator and the denominator, we have that's called the divisor. And when we do that, a dividend divided by the divisor is the quotient plus the remainder. So when I can talk about this, the biggest key is that we know this is the divisor, that's my dividend. It gives me a quotient and a remainder. Okay, and if the remainder is 0, then it went in evenly. So what we're going to do is, first things first, we're dividing by this. We'll write this in some way, 2x squared plus 5, and it's dividing into, this is the way I usually show this, 4x to the 4th. Now granted, I'm going to leave this open and put 0x cubed, and then minus 2x squared, plus 5x, and minus 2. Okay, so we're going to put that information in there, and now we're going to say, alright, how does this go in here? Well, we're going to follow, long division is what we call an algorithm. It's just a repeated process. I like to have lots of syllables here, but it just means I'm going to do the same steps over and over. And so those steps are first to divide the leading terms. Okay? So we say in our case, what does that mean? Well, that means I'm going to take 4x to the 4th and divide it by 2x squared. I'm going to ignore everything else, all the rest of these terms, and I'm just going to take the leading ones and take this one here, that is from the dividend, and divide it by that. And we end up with a result of 2x squared. Just comes in there exactly 2x squared, so we get 2x squared. Okay? So when we write that result on the top, that'd be my next thing. Sometimes you put that in there as a step, maybe not. But we get that result, we write it up here, and now we go to step number 3. Multiply what we got for the part of that quotient times this out here, the divisor. So I take 2x squared times that 2x squared, and that will leave me with, okay, 4x to the 4th. 2x squared times that 5 is plus 10x squared. And now we go to step 4, which is to subtract. And this is the one that gets people, because I need to take this polynomial minus that polynomial. The first ones should cancel, 4x to the 4th minus 4x to the 4th, 0. But the next ones I need to take a negative minus this positive. And that's where 95% of the mistakes on long division are made, okay, when they do long divisions for polynomials. This minus that. And then I go 5x minus 0 is 5x. And then negative 2 minus 0 is negative 2. Sorry, I should have switched colors for you there. Let's do this again. And this should be negative 12x squared plus 5x minus 2. Once I have completed that process, I'll just do it again. So I'll look at this term here, negative 12x squared, and we'll divide it by this, which is 2x squared, and we'll come up with just negative 6. And that's great news for me, because that means I'm getting close to being done. Negative 6 times this is negative 12x squared. Negative 6 times positive 5 is a negative 30. And now we'll go ahead and subtract. Negative 12x minus a negative, that's adding a positive, 0. 5x minus, I don't have any of those, 5x here. Negative 2 minus a negative, remember I'm subtracting negatives, so that's really adding. Negative 2 plus 30 is positive 28. Now I would go to repeat. But when I go to repeat, I notice that I have 5x divided by 2x squared. And the degree of what I'm dividing by is more than the top, so I know that this is my remainder. Okay? And so there is my remainder. So the answer for this for the quotient is 2x squared minus 6 with a remainder of 5x plus 28. Now, when you were doing this for your slant asymptotes, we don't care about the remainder because we just harvest this and call y equals this as our slant asymptote. In this case, we would have a quadratic asymptote. It'd be kind of wicked. That would follow this 2x squared minus 6 idea. It would be getting closer and closer to that as you got off to the edges there. Okay? Now that's long division. And one of the keys there is when the divisor, if the divisor is not first degree, then you know that you're going to need to do the long division. Right? Synthetic division, another example of synthetic division, would be, if I take this same 4x to the 4th, let's say we take that same thing, okay, and we go ahead and, now that's long division, okay, notice there's those steps. We'll create synthetic division steps right here, and it's not going to be the same. I'll just tell you that. All right, but we cannot do a synthetic division problem when that's x squared. So let's take this as 2x minus 6, let's just say. Okay? So for synthetic division, that's the first rule, is that the divisor that on the bottom has to be linear. This has to be degree 1. Okay? So then, step 2 is I'm going to find the, step 1 is I'm going to find the 0. Find the 0 of the divisor. Okay? So when does 2x minus 6 equal 0? That's when 2x is 6. That's when x is 3. So then I'm going to, number 2, write the synthetic division statement. Now what I mean by that, write the synthetic division statement, is to harvest those coefficients. So that means that I'm going to harvest this as a 3 out here, and then I'm going to harvest these coefficients in there. Those coefficients are 4 for the x to the 4th term. The x cubed term is 0. The x squared term is negative 2. The x to the 1st term is 5, and then the constant term is negative 2. So I've harvested those coefficients, and I've said I don't need the x's or any of those variables on there. And now I can do synthetic division, because once I have set this up on steps 1 and 2, step 3 would be to add vertically, and then step 4 is to multiply diagonally up. Okay? And then step 5 is to repeat. Okay? Repeat 3 and then 4. Once we've written it out, I repeat this 3 and 4. So we go, okay, on the first time on the way down, we just go ahead and add. 4 plus, there's nothing there, so that's 4. Now, that's step 4 here. Okay? Addition. Then, here's step 5, and that's going to be to multiply. Right? So 4 times the 3. So we're going to say, all right, times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Now on the way down, we'll add. 0 plus 12 is 12. 12 times 3 is 36. Negative 2 plus 36 is 34. 34 times 3, that's going to be 2, carry the 1, 9, carry the 1, it's 102. Okay? Add on the way down, we get 107. 107 times 3, 1 carry the 2, 321. Add the negative 9, or excuse me, the negative 2, and we get 319. All right. Now you might be saying, well, what does that tell me about that up there? What it tells me is that the answer to this equation, in other words, the quotient for this, is, here's the coefficients, 4, 12, 34, 107. Those are my coefficients. The degree on this one was 4th degree, so this degree will be 1 less. It'll start with 4 times x to the 3rd, plus 12 times x to the 2nd, plus 34 times x to the 1st, plus 107, and it has a remainder, with a remainder of 319. Okay? I hope that's a good review for you on the difference between synthetic division over here and the long division. And both of those lists are right there for those algorithms, those repetitive processes. It might be kind of early because you're seeing this and maybe you still need to work on the worksheets, or I'm not sure exactly what you'll have done. But this having been said, at the end of this is the end of what I picked out of Chapter 2 to be things that I thought we should review before we got into the calculus, for sure. That, you know, you were gonna see these again, and so I wanted to quickly review those. Okay, so there's only a couple sections in Chapter 2, 2.1, 2.2, and 2.6. That kind of encompasses everything I looked at. You know what? That's the most important things here. This is what we're going to get to. So what you'll need to do is spend some time reviewing this, getting better at this, and we'll have another day of worksheets of this. And the quiz, I believe, is scheduled for I want to say that's Tuesday the 11th and Wednesday the 12th, depending on if you're in the A or the B schedule. Okay, that's when we have a quiz on just these sections in Chapter 2. And remember that on Sunday is your virtual day, and that information will be posted on Google Classroom, including probably a link to a video or whatever we have picked out, and then directions on what you need to do there. So that'll be on Virtual Classroom. Look for that to show up probably sometime on Saturday or AM early on Sunday morning. But maybe it'll be on there Friday night to Saturday probably. Give you directions on what you need to do there for Virtual Classroom. Okay, hope this helps, and we'll talk to you guys later.